Welcome back, everyone. Looks like we're diving into some pretty intense stuff today.
Oh, yeah. Definitely intense.
We're tackling the age-old question, can long-distance relationships actually work?
Yeah, question for the ages, it seems like.
Seriously. And you guys didn't make it easy on us.
You guys really send us down a rabbit hole with all these sources.
Reddit threads, expert advice from Verywell Mind and eHarmony.
Even a personal blog post about a couple who made it work across continents.
So we've got a lot to unpack.
We do.
Let's break down what makes long distance so tough. What helps couples actually thrive despite the miles?
And the big one, can you make it work?
Exactly. That's the ultimate question, isn't it? And speaking of questions,
Oh, you mean that Reddit thread from our long distance?
that's the one.
Yeah.
It all starts with someone just straight up asking, can these relationships really work? And you can practically feel the anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. They even mention feeling pressured to just find someone they can actually see.
I bet. Only a month in and already getting that kind of pressure?
It's tough, for sure, and the responses are all over the place.
Right. You've got those who are totally skeptical, doom and gloom.
Yeah, saying the odds are stacked against you, bringing up breakup rates and that whole you have to close the gap eventually thing.
Which, to be fair, is a pretty common sentiment.
It is, and the lack of physical presence definitely adds a layer of complexity.
No doubt about it. And it's not just the emotional side of things either.
Oh, right. Very well. Mind and eHarmony both highlight the practical challenges.
Yeah, things like financial strain from all that traveling back and forth.
It's true, travel costs can add up so quickly, and that just adds stress to an already stressful situation.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the emotional roller coaster.
Oh man, those articles both mentioned how emotions can be even more intense in LDRs.
Think about it. The highs of those reunions probably off the charts.
Yeah, but then the lows, the anxiety leading up to those visits, or the loneliness when you're apart,
It's like everything's amplified.
makes sense when you think about it.
Right. You have less face-to-face time, so each interaction carries more weight.
Exactly, and that can lead to some pretty unrealistic expectations.
Oh, yeah. Like trying to make every in-person visit perfect, like it's straight out of a movie montage.
Precisely. And when real life inevitably doesn't live up to that fantasy.
Disappointment, resentment, the whole 9 yards.
It's a recipe for trouble, for sure.
So, yeah, there are definitely challenges, but then you see those Redditors sharing their success stories.
The ones who made it work.
Yes. Talking about closing the gap, getting married, building a life together after years of long distance.
It gives you hope, right? Proof that it's not impossible.
Exactly. And what's interesting is their stories often emphasize the same things the experts do.
You mean open communication, commitment, shared vision for the future?
All that good stuff. It's like a recurring theme.
And it's not just anecdotal either. There's actual research suggesting LDR couples can have equal or even higher relationship satisfaction.
Really higher. That's surprising.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But think about it. Those couples who make it work, they often develop incredibly strong communication skills.
They kind of have to because of the distance, right?
Exactly. No room for sweeping things under the rug. They have to be intentional about staying connected.
It's like the distance forces you to address issues head on instead of letting things simmer.
And that can be a good thing in the long run, leading to a deeper understanding and stronger bond.
So maybe there's something to that whole absence makes the heart grow fonder thing after all.
Maybe so, but let's not forget about that one Reddit user, the one who initially thought LDRs were doomed.
Oh yeah, I remember them super skeptical at first.
But then they came back a month later with an update saying their mind had changed.
It's like a plot twist. What happened? Did they find a way to make it work? Did their partner do something amazing?
We don't know the details, unfortunately.
Or maybe they just started to see the potential despite the distance. Who knows?
It's a great example of how individual experiences can vary so much.
Totally. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
But it does highlight something crucial. A positive attitude can make a huge difference.
It's not about blindly believing things will work out, but more about that conscious choice to make it work, to focus on the positives.
And to find ways to connect despite the miles.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that reminds me of something Mark Manson talked about in his blog post.
Oh yeah, having something to look forward to.
Yes. He said it's crucial for LDR couples to have that shared sense of purpose.
Whether it's planning visits, working towards closing the gap, or even just dreaming about a future together.
It's like that shared goal keeps the hope alive,
Mm.
gives you something to work towards as a team.
Not just surviving the distance, but actually thriving in the relationship.
Love that.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just physical intimacy, too.
Right. The Internations article talked about finding creative ways to stay connected on multiple levels.
Emotionally, intellectually, even through shared activities.
They suggested virtual dates, care packages, online games, anything to help you feel close despite the physical separation.
Oh, that reminds me of the Medium post, where the couple talk about using online games to connect.
Really?
Yeah, they'd hang out virtually while playing a game, making it feel like they were sharing an experience even when they were miles apart.
I love that idea. It combines communication and fun, which can be powerful for any couple.
Especially in LDRs. It's not just about talking about your day, but actually experiencing something together, even if it's virtual.
Finding those pockets of togetherness when you're physically apart.
Exactly. But all this talk about making it work makes me wonder about the flip side. When is it time to let go?
The When to Let Go article had some good points about that.
It did. It really did.
Yeah.
While it's important to be optimistic and put in the effort,
We also have to be realistic. Not all LDRs are meant to succeed.
sometimes the distance, despite everyone's best intentions, becomes too much.
The article talked about red flags like persistent trust issues, dwindling communication,
And constantly feeling more distressed than happy. Those are clear signs something's not working.
and even though breakups are never easy, sometimes letting go, even in a long-distance relationship, is the healthiest choice.
It allows space for growth and healing, even if it's painful in the moment.
So true.
It's about recognizing that love isn't always enough. You need trust communication, a shared vision.
And sometimes you need to be brave enough to admit when it's just not meant to be.
Well said. So much to think about already.
Isn't there? And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have a lot more to dive into with all these sources.
Buckle up, everyone. This is going to be a deep dive.
You got that right.
And it's not just about whether or not it can work, you know?
Right. It's more about, is it worth it?
Exactly. Is this relationship worth the effort, the sacrifices, the emotional ups and downs?
Because let's be real, long distance is hard.
It is. It takes a certain kind of person, a certain kind of relationship to make it work.
And even then, there's no guarantee, right?
Absolutely. The Reddit thread really highlights that some people just can't imagine being with someone they can't see every day.
While others swear by it, saying the distance actually made their bond stronger.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how different people experience it?
It is. It really is. And that's why I think it's so important to understand your own needs and your partner's needs.
Oh, totally. Like if one person thrives on physical touch and constant companionship,
While the other is more independent, comfortable with space.
yeah, that could create some serious tension.
It's not just about surviving the distance. It's about thriving in the relationship, despite the distance.
Exactly. And that requires some serious conversations about expectations, boundaries, and what each person needs to feel loved and supported.
And experts all seem to agree on that.
Communication is key in any relationship, but it's even more crucial in long-distance relationships.
When you're not physically present, it's so easy for misunderstandings to escalate, for doubts to creep in.
And for insecurities to take root.
Ugh. Yeah, those insecurities can be brutal.
So it's really important to be proactive about communication.
Absolutely. Scheduling regular check-ins is a good starting point.
But it's also about being flexible, adapting to each other's needs.
Right. Life happens. Things come up. Sometimes those scheduled calls need to be rescheduled.
Or replaced with a quick text to say, hey, thinking of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Medium blogger actually emphasized that point.
They did.
Yeah, they said routine is good, but don't let communication feel like a chore.
It's got to be organic, right?
Totally. It's about finding a rhythm that works for both of you.
And it's not just about logistics and schedules either.
Oh, definitely not. It's about sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your dreams.
Staying emotionally connected, even when you're physically apart.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is, and that's where things like virtual dates, sending care packages, playing online games together can be really helpful.
It's about maintaining intimacy, creating shared experiences, even when you're miles apart.
Like those little rituals you build as a couple, even if they're virtual, they can help you feel connected and grounded in the relationship.
But what happens when those rituals start to feel forced?
Or when the communication starts to dwindle.
Yeah, what then?
That's when it's time to take a step back and really assess what's going on.
The When to Let Go article had some really insightful things to say about that.
It did. It really did.
Like sometimes we get so caught up in the fantasy of what the relationship could be.
That we ignore the warning signs that it's not working in reality.
Those red flags we talked about. Persistent trust issues, dwindling communication, constant feeling of distress.
Those are all signs that something's not right.
And it's okay to acknowledge those feelings, to have those tough conversations.
Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your partner is to let go, even if it hurts.
It's a hard truth, but it's true.
Love isn't always enough. You need trust communication, a shared vision.
And sometimes you need to be brave enough to admit when those things are missing.
It's like that Reddit user who initially thought LDRs were doomed, but then came back with an update saying their mind had changed.
We don't know the details of their story, but it's a reminder that every relationship is unique.
And there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Maybe they found ways to work through their challenges. Maybe they realized the relationship wasn't right for them.
Either way, it's their journey, and it's a reminder that we all have our own paths to follow.
So true. So true.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's leave our listeners with some food for thought.
We've explored the complexities of long-distance relationships, the challenges, the potential rewards.
The importance of communication and the difficult decision of when to let go.
But ultimately, the decision of whether or not to pursue a long-distance relationship is a deeply personal one.
There's no right or wrong answer.
It's about what feels right for you, for your partner, and for the unique dynamic you share. It's kind of crazy to think about all the ground we've covered in this deep dive into long-distance relationships.
We really have, haven't we? From real couples on Reddit to expert analysis to personal stories of both success and heartbreak.
It seems like every time we think we've got a handle on it.
There's another layer, another perspective, another story that throws a wrench in the works.
And that just reinforces what we've been saying all along. There's no easy answer to the question, can LDRs work?
It's so individual, isn't it? What works for one couple might be a complete disaster for another.
And that's what I find so fascinating about all of this, how much individual experiences and perspectives can differ.
Oh, absolutely. Some people really thrive in that independent space, you know?
Yeah, finding creative ways to connect and build a strong bond, even with the distance.
But for others, that lack of physical presence is just too much to handle.
The emotional roller coaster, the potential for miscommunication, it can be pretty draining.
And I think that's why it's so important to go beyond those surface-level generalizations we often hear about LDRs.
You know, those blanket statements like communication is key or you need to have a shared vision.
Right, because those things are important, but they're just the starting point.
The real question is, how do those things actually play out in your relationship with your unique needs and dynamics?
It's like those practical tips from the Internations article on the surface. They sound so simple.
Schedule regular check-ins. Find creative ways to stay connected. Make sure you're on the same page about exclusivity and the future.
But the challenge is figuring out what those things look like in practice for you and your partner.
Exactly, because regular check-ins might mean something completely different to a couple who are both super busy with work and in different time zones.
Totally. Is it a daily call, a weekly video chat, or just texting throughout the day? It really depends on the couple.
And what about those creative ways to stay connected? Are we talking elaborate care packages, virtual game nights, or just watching a movie together online?
So many possibilities, and it all comes back to that honest self-reflection.
What makes you feel loved and connected? What are your non-negotiables in a relationship, regardless of distance?
And are those things compatible with your partner's needs and communication style? Because that's where things can get tricky.
Even with all love in the world, even with a shared vision for the future,
If those fundamental needs and expectations aren't aligned,
it's going to be an uphill battle.
and that's where the When to Let Go article comes in. It's not about giving up easily.
But about recognizing when the distance, despite your best efforts, is creating more strain than connection.
And that's a tough realization to come to, but sometimes it's the most honest and compassionate choice you can make.
For yourself and for your partner.
The author's advice about listening to your gut really resonated with me.
Me too. If the relationship is consistently bringing more distress than joy, if the trust is eroding, if the communication feels more like a burden,
Those are all signs that something needs to change.
and sometimes that change means walking away, even if it hurts.
It's acknowledging that love, while powerful, isn't always enough to overcome the challenges of distance incompatibility or a lack of shared vision.
But for those who do choose to embark on this long-distance journey,
The ones who find ways to bridge the miles and build a strong, resilient connection.
the rewards can be pretty amazing.
Oh, absolutely. That Reddit thread was filled with stories of couples who not only survived the distance, but actually thrived because of it.
They talked about how the distance forced them to communicate more effectively, to appreciate the time they had together even more.
And to develop a deeper level of trust and understanding.
They emerge from the experience stronger, both individually and as a couple.
So inspiring.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into long-distance relationships,
We'll leave you with this.
there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
It's a journey that requires careful consideration, honest self-reflection, and open communication with your partner.
But ultimately, the decision is yours to make. Trust your instincts, honor your needs, and remember that love in all its forms is a journey worth exploring.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
We hope this exploration has provided some valuable insights as you navigate the complexities of love and distance.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep those conversations flowing.
And remember, distance doesn't have to mean the end. It can actually be the beginning of something truly special.